And now, everyone, let's put our hands together and give a warm welcome to our moderator, Pat Bishop.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you to those of you who are here today with us on campus and all of you joining us online. My name is Pat Bishop. I'm the Director of Graduate Studies here at Full Sail University. I am hosting this session, How to Create an Effective Brand, Session 2, Build. So please put your hands together and welcome our speaker, Phil Pallen, Brand Strategist with Phil Pallen Collective.
Thank you, Pat. Pat's my bestie. Good morning, everyone. You're up awfully early. Are you here for something? Something exciting? Can I help you? I'm very excited you're here. If you're here in the room, thank you. I know it was an early start for many of us. And if you're watching online, hello. This is a very exciting session. We worked very hard together yesterday, didn't we? As brand strategists, and we have results today. So thanks to your help, and thanks to my team's help back in LA, we have put together some fun stuff that we get to share with our special guest who will join me on stage in a few minutes that he hasn't seen yet. So I'm very excited to I get excited when I show clients something that we've been working hard on for the first time, but it's even more fun because you get to be a part of this experience. So remember, you can be active on Twitter, #FullSailHOF, and if you have a question, we'll have time at the end. We'll do what we did yesterday and send a microphone around the room and get into some discussions all about building your brand. Remember, I'm at Phil Pallen on Twitter and Instagram, and you know what happened yesterday. We brought Fernando up on stage yesterday, and wasn't he amazing? He was so real. He kept it so real, and it was refreshing, to hear about some of the positive, some of the challenges that even someone being inducted into the Hall of Fame faces. I was like, amen, yes, But it's exciting when someone is that real and that engaged. It makes the work that we do that much more rewarding and that much more accurate when we want to build something to show. So that's what we're doing today. We're building a brand, and then this afternoon, we will talk all about promoting what you've worked really hard to position and build. So that's coming up this afternoon. This afternoon will be very casual, by the way. I'm not going to put together a fancy little, concert slideshow. We'll talk about all the different ways that you can promote your brand and really make it about Q&A, make it about some of the questions you have, to more effectively position, build, and promote. So we talked about this idea yesterday. I, in front of all of you, defined how I think of brand, this word, this ambiguous term that everyone defines differently. I believe your brand is control over your first impression online. We juggle two versions of ourselves, the in-person experience and the version that we ideally recreate online. And that version that we build online needs to be true to the person you are in real life. Two parts, your content, so the information you share, and the way you share it, your personality, is how we put a unique spin on that. And that's what keeps people ideally coming back to you. By show of hands, who was here yesterday? So we know. Most of you, good. And then we teased today, so I'd make sure you'd wake up early and show up. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, I will very quickly introduce myself. I'm Phil. I graduated from EBMS in 2011. That is me now. This was me then. 3 weeks before I was set to graduate, I, like many of you, wanted to find a job. And entered a competition to become Charlie Sheen's social media intern at the peak of his craziness in the media. Out of 90,000 people, I made it to the top 50 in this competition. Full Sail was amazing. They helped support me and gave me some tips and coverage and all of this as I was in this crazy, turbulent internship competition. I then had an opportunity during all of that to get an internship with Ryan Seacrest, who actually fired me 1 week before I was set to start and moved to LA. A lot has happened since then over the years of building my career. I come back to Full Sail quite often, but I wrote a book. I speak at conferences all over the world, specifically on the art and the science behind personal branding. I built a niche for myself that I'm really proud of, and that is helping individuals take inventory of this. I don't do a lot of corporate work. I find it kind of boring. I like working with people. So I work as a brand strategist, and I am considered a celebrity brand expert. So I do all kinds of crazy things like hop up on TV or get quoted in news media whenever, there's something silly to talk about. And then, of course, more recently, I decided, well, I guess I can do this job from anywhere, so I guess I should. I travel over 160,000 miles a year, and last year I had 58 flights between January and December, so I don't stay in one place for very long, and I enjoy having a job that I can do from anywhere. And so I mention that, I take time to mention that, because all of you in fact, are in the position where you're deciding, here are some options of things I can pursue. Well, some of those options can be done anywhere. You can be location independent, and it's honestly what I think makes one of the things that makes my job so fun and rewarding. Now let's talk about the process for building a brand. Yesterday, we focused almost entirely on positioning, which is the first part of this. We can't build or promote something until it's been positioned for success. But this is really the fun part, right? We first have to figure out what's the gift that we're going to present to the world. But once we figure that out, then we get to wrap it. That's the fun part, the visuals. That's what we're focusing on today. And you'll be shocked, I have a system for this. I have a process that regardless of client or industry, the process is exactly the same. Once we've positioned the brand, we build something to show for it in this order. I actually start with photography. And sometimes people think I'm crazy for starting with photography. Why wouldn't you choose a color first or, start somewhere else? But actually, photos often inspire the rest of the visual creation process in ways that, sure, you can anticipate, but also in other ways that, things just kind of happen perfectly. And I'll give you some examples of how photography often inspires the rest of this process. Once we figure out the direction for photography and I find a great photographer to shoot the client that I'm working with, then we start to compile the visuals for the brand identity. And I say identity, brand identity, not just a logo. There are some people that use those two terms interchangeably, but they're very different. A logo is one part of the visual identity or the brand identity process, and we'll look at some examples of that today. Not just a few examples of clients that I branded recently, but also the one we branded together yesterday. Finally, as part of the build, once we've got the photography, once we've also built a visual brand, all of that comes together on the web, and we create a website, which is how we communicate you in an authentic way on the web. That's kind of a fun part, because everything we've been working hard to build independently comes together, and everything just kind of makes sense. The other part of that, the really important part of building your website, is listening to those conversational tidbits of gold. I'm sure some of you were thinking this yesterday when I had Fernando up on stage. Didn't he have some amazing sound bites, right? Once he got comfortable and was like, okay, I trust these people, I can share some details, he had some amazing sound bites that we can almost use verbatim on the website. People get so caught up in how do I, describe who I am and why people should care and writing this big long bio, when in fact, I'm all about keeping it short, concise, and conversational. And I love websites that have the copy written in first person. And we can talk about that in question period. If you want to know why I like first person instead of third person, it's more direct. We usually know you made your own website, so you don't need to pretend like someone else is talking about you, right? I wouldn't talk about myself in third person to you in real life, so why should we do it on the web when those two experiences should be consistent? So that's the process. That's a little bit about how we'll do things. Today, I want to start with an example of someone that I have branded recently. It's a great before and after. This is a friend and a client of mine named Chandresh, who is a spiritual advisor. He does some amazing work, including retreats that he does internationally. Chandresh came to me through a very strong referral and said, Phil, I know you're the guy that I need to help, but I have great news. I already got photos done recently, so we don't even need to worry about doing that together. And then he sent me this. It's very nice. It's a nice picture of him, but it doesn't tell me, it doesn't show me who he is. And anyone who's hung out with me for more than 5 minutes, you know how serious I get about showing people your brand. Don't just tell me what you're capable of doing. This came up in question period yesterday, right? Don't just tell me your capabilities. Prove to me, right? Proof is in the pudding. Proof. Show me what your brand is and why I should care. Attention spans are at an all-time brevity, right? They're brief, they're short. People don't pay attention because then they become distracted and watch viral kitty videos on YouTube. And as soon as you've lost someone, you've potentially lost them forever. So when we're building a visual brand, we look for every opportunity to grab their attention quickly. So this photo, while it looks nice, it wasn't going to cut it. For Phil, there I am talking about myself in third person. Just a walking contradiction. So I said, no, Chandresh, I've got an idea. Let's send you with a photographer on a hike. And he walks every morning, and that's a big part of how he gets inspired and starts his day. I said, I want to see you in your element through photography. And this is one of my favorite pictures that came out of that. You see the difference? You see the difference? The first one, it's nice, but it's not exciting. It's not enough to make you really want to learn more about him. And the second one, at least I think, really shows him in his environment. Look at that photo closely and start to notice some of the consistencies and how that inspired the rest of the branding. I always lead with photography. We can plan things for a shoot, and clients will sometimes say, what should I wear? What should I do with my face? All of these things. And all I say to them is, be you, wear something that makes you feel like a rock star. And if that means you have to go buy an outfit from Nordstrom and return it the next day, wonderful. If it's an outfit you already have in your wardrobe, great. I will never tell you exactly what to wear. I'll give you some ideas. I'll encourage you to take a little photo, an iPhone photo, and if you've got an outfit plan, great, send it over, and I'll give you my 2 cents. But I let clients decide this on their own. And the magic that comes from the photography, for example, look at the color of the bracelet that he wears every single day. And you'll see how that is really kind of inspired. We use the orange color actually as an action color on his website. If you go and visit it, chandreshbhardwaj.com, you'll see. Sorry, that's not the web address. It's CB Meditates. Another thing I wanted to show you, how the photography inspires so much of the visual direction. Notice the shadow that, of course, we didn't plan, we didn't create it. It just kind of was there, that perfect opportunity, this shadowy, dark photo that really fits his vibe. We carried consistently in some of the quote cards. He's very much into writing poetry, and so that inspired the visual direction in a way that we couldn't anticipate. I'm going to give you another example, which is a before and an after. This is a great friend of mine and a client, Dinesh. It was a very intimidating project for me because he's an investor. So he came to me and said, Phil, I get it. I like what you're all about, but I want a return on my investment. And when it comes to branding, that's not always something I can guarantee, right? But I said, okay, great, let's do this. Oh God, And he was very, very happy with the process and the way that it returned for him. He wanted more speaking engagements. He wanted people to understand who he was within a few seconds. This is the website, a screenshot of the website that he started with when he came to me. So he had his very long last name that most people are not going to be able to pronounce or spell correctly into a web browser. He's got 3 job titles that he's juggling, and he has this photo that looks terrifying. And so I'm on the phone with him, and I'm like, we had a few phone calls, and I started to get to know him, and it was really bothering me how this just was not consistent with the guy that I was meeting and becoming friends with and learning that really this is not him. And so whenever I have those experiences of inconsistency, that's what drives me to figure out how can we do a better job of this? How can we do a better job of taking inventory of who this person is in real life and just communicating that on the web? So, of course, I start. You know how this works. I set him up with one of my photographers, and I said, let's see you do your thing. How do you start your morning? He said, well, I'd probably go to a coffee shop, and I'd take my iPad out, and I'd, draft a few ideas, send a few emails. Great. Let's photograph it. I want to see you in your element, and I want to see you doing your thing, and that inspires the process, right? And once I feel good about the photos and I go, okay, there's some really cool things happening here. There's cool colors. There's really neat backgrounds and things that we just couldn't plan that will inspire the process for creating the visual identity. Normally, we start with a few concrete sources of inspiration. Big part of my job is listening. Right? When someone gives me something to work with, I got to take that and run with it. You need something to inspire the visual process, especially when you're creating a logo. So here, we had 3 that we decided to be inspired by. The D, obviously, the initial on his name. An elephant, which for Dinesh represented, culturally, it represented wisdom. And this idea of coffee. Dinesh loves coffee. We photographed that. But it's more than that. It's more than a love. For him, coffee had a transformational quality. The idea of getting together with someone and sharing that experience over coffee, it could turn a relationship into a friendship, into a professional working relationship, a client, or an investment opportunity. But he really believed in this idea of transformational coffee. And that was an opportunity to sub-brand, right? To take something that's unique to him, something that he's passionate about, and incorporate that. So we have 3 distinct sources of inspiration: a D, an elephant, and coffee. Are you ready to see all of these things come together? Are you going to give me a drum roll, or is it too early for that? Okay, great. There we go. Oh, I like that. Oh. So I don't know what you see. People see different things. It's intentional, right? You see an elephant. Some people see coffee right away. And some people don't see the D, and then I just get worried. No, we don't always do this. We don't always kind of have this kind of clever, approach to branding. There's all different types of there's different types of logos, right? Different directions. For this is, it fit him. It fit who he was. He's an intelligent guy, and we thought, your audience is also savvy. Let's give them something that will be memorable. At the end of the day, we're just trying to make a first impression that is memorable. And if you've done that, you've beat a lot of other people. So once we kind of figure out the logo, the visual, the direction, so again, I talked about not using logo and brand identity interchangeably. The logo is just one part of it. We've got usually an icon set, for something that's unique about how you do business. If some of you have seen my slides and presentations, you know that I have custom icons for all of the cities that I spend time. If you email with me, you'll see in my email signature, it'll show you where I am at that given moment. Does it really matter? No. Is it different than what most people do? Yes, and that's the whole point. So it's not just a logo, it's also a color system. For Dinesh, we use this really beautiful combination of these three colors that you see on the slide. It's color, it's typography, not just randomly selecting a font or a typography set that you're in the mood for that day. It's deciding on a system and sticking with it. There should be consistency among everything that you create to show for yourself. When you hand me your business card, and on your business card it has your website, and then I go to your website, all of this is part of the same family. You're building a system. Logo, color, typography, sub-brands, so those are usually icons, and then making sure that your collateral on web and on print are consistent. A tip for choosing a font, I recommend choosing something that works, obviously, when it's printed, but also on the web. And not every font is web safe, or not every font can be shown on the web. So 2 good resources for you: Typekit, which is an Adobe property, and also Google Fonts, which are free. Those are 2 great places to find fonts and typography that work on the web and, of course, in print form. And I mentioned one of the exciting moments when everything comes together, the color, the conversational copy, and the photography, and the branding, is on a website. And don't go crazy with all different kinds of pages and detail on a website. The more content and pages and distractions you have on the web, in fact, the more control you actually give up. Right? Keep it contained. Keep it easy for me to consume. You really, 9 times out of 10, don't need more than 5 or 6 pages on your website. With a few variations, depending on what you do, it's usually home, about, projects or portfolio, or what I do, or ways to work with me, services. It's one of those terms. Then it's a blog. But if you have a blog, make sure you update it beyond just the time that you launch your website. And then it's contact at the end. And you can get somewhat creative with what you name these pages, but don't get too creative, because if it's something that I don't identify right away, there's a good chance I won't click it. We'll talk more about websites if you have questions, either at the end of this session when we do Q&A, or this afternoon when we talk about promoting your brand. I want to give one more example of the power of visuals, in this case specifically photography, and why to start with this, and why to actually give this a lot of weight in this process. If someone comes to me and says, Phil, this is all fine and dandy, but I'm a student, or I'm a recent grad and I'm building a business from the ground up and I don't have a huge amount of money to invest in this yet. They'll say, I can't do it all. What should I start with? Or if I had to choose one of all of these different things, what would it be? You might think right away, a logo, or something like that. But in fact, it's not. I say, for now, put your name in a nice font and keep it consistent. The place that I would start if I had to invest, if I had a little bit of money and I had to invest it in my business, would be photography. It would be good photos of you, because, well, you know how you feel when you find someone online and it's a pixelated photo, or it's a photo on LinkedIn and you've cropped out your family at the family reunion barbecue last summer, right? It's crazy to me that people don't have good photography to show for themselves on the web. It's 2018. Get with the program. And I mean that seriously. People are so quick to spend money on an outfit, from their favorite designer that they're going to wear a few times. You spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars for an outfit that a select number of people will see you wear in real life. I'm sorry, but shouldn't you be investing in a great photo that hundreds, potentially thousands of people are going to see over the course of a year, sometimes 2 years? Right? That's how you need to think about this. Your photography is so super important in terms of communicating to people who you are. I'm actually going to show you 2 different individuals with the same career, but through photography, it communicates so much more, right? Or such a different brand. I haven't told you who these people are. I haven't told you anything about them, but through a single photo, can you start to see some of the differences? Right? So Deanna is a wonderful friend and client of mine. She's a lawyer. She's a journalist. She's very thoughtful. She's very, very sweet. And then we have Michelle, who is amazing. She's an entertainment attorney. She's got tons of energy. She loves improv. She loves comedy, And so just through completely different visuals, same career, both women, we communicate something completely different, even without any context. So that's my last example for you today. Remember that your brand, when it's positioned and built successfully, can do the work for you. Now it's the time that you've been waiting for, that we are going to get Fernando back up on stage shortly. But in case you didn't get to hang out with us yesterday, here's a little recap of what went down. So we're doing something brand new that I have never done, not only at Full Sail, but I've never done ever. All of you are going to become mini Phils. You're going to have a chance to weigh in on some decisions that need to be made by tomorrow. You're going to go to my Instagram right now, and you're going to vote on something. We are in place to build something to show for what we've talked about today tomorrow.
I'm super pumped.
I'm super pumped as
Can
well.
you tell?
Are you pumped? Friends, let's welcome him back to the stage, Fernando Delgado. You ready for this? Round 2?
Let's do it.
Hugs! What an exciting day. Listen, we did the hard work yesterday, and now you get to just sit back and see what we've been hard at work on, right, team?
Full Sail water, the best water.
Hashtag branding.
Yeah.
So this is really exciting. So I want to thank you again for being so awesome yesterday. Was it crazy? Was it terrifying? Was it uncomfortable? What was it?
It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
I
wife
agree.
says I was nervous, but I don't believe her.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of elements to juggle. We've got lights, we've got strangers,
Your questions caught me off guard a little bit, made me think, got my
Yeah.
wheels spinning.
Yeah, and I was saying yesterday at the end it was very different for me. Normally when I get up on stage and talk, I've done this a few times, so I go into robot mode. But yesterday was really fun because we didn't even know necessarily where the conversation was going.
Yeah.
But we were listening for those opportunities that would inspire the visual brand that we could create. So yesterday, this was really fun. Many of you participated in the voting process. It's really, really helpful, actually, to have input. In fact, you made some decisions that were different than what I was going to anticipate. So let's do a little recap of how those results.
Yes, let's.
Yeah, results
I
time.
forgot to vote.
Oh, okay. You had one job. No, just kidding. The first question that we threw out yesterday that I wanted an answer to that would inspire this process was this. Number 1, what should Fernando's brand sentence be? Option 1, audio expert who makes life easier on set. Producers, I hear you. That was the first brand sentence option. And the second one was this: Emmy Award-winning audio consultant and owner of Stickman Sound. making audio processes a breeze, one set at a time. Slightly longer, a little bit more context. Let's see. Many of you voted, right? Put your hand up if you voted yesterday. Good. You're paying attention. So let's see the results. Are you ready to find out the winner? Yep. If you went to my Instagram, you already know the answer, so it's not quite that exciting. But the winner, I think it won by 58%, so it was close, was option 2. Option 2 was the winner. The slightly longer sentence with more context is what the people voted for. Okay?
That's what the people say. So it is.
So it is. So let's see the second question. Was number 2, what should his brand's visual mood be? First option was clean and modern, or playful and eccentric. This one was not quite as even in terms of results. The very clear winner with, I think, 73%, at least at the time I checked before coming up on stage, was clean and modern.
Really? I'm surprised.
Yeah. Yep, that's what they wanted, so that's what they get.
People have spoken.
The people have spoken, and the results are in. And Fernando, it's time for you to see your brand that we've been very hard at work on, team. So this is your headshot from Hall of Fame. Let's see your new visual brand. And we'll start with photography.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the photos that were taken.
Boom! Look at that handsome man. So.
Look like my dad.
So here's some fun stuff. They wanted clean and modern. So we decided to add a really cool visual treatment and some colors that you're about to see that we thought can exist independently as a personal brand, but also complement what you've worked really hard to build in terms of investing time and money and passion, which is your business, Stickman Sound.
Right.
The colors that you do with Stickman Sound, well, you're wearing actually a hoodie. So it's black, it's white, and it's orange is a signature color. So we thought we need something that's going to be able to coexist beautifully, but also be able to live on its own. What do you think?
That's cool. Wow, that's really neat.
So I'm just going to click through and you can see some of this. And I am later today going to post this on my website, philpallen.expert. We're going to do a little blog post all about, drawing some of the decisions that we've arrived at here. But I would say if you attended yesterday's session, you can kind of see how we took some of those elements that came up in conversation and created visuals to pair with it. Obviously, audio, is fun. We decided to go with this kind of monogrammed initial. It's more masculine, right? So to take your initials and then have a fun little audio spin on it, keeping it clean and modern, colors that work and complement what you've already created, right? Because, a lot of these opportunities that we discussed, the strategy, the consulting that we arrived at yesterday, it has to coexist with what you've already created. So it wouldn't make sense, for example, to create something that's a bright pink. That's not going to be able to live with what you've already worked really hard to make.
I'm bummed out we can't do that.
I know, right? Scrap it. Let's go with hot pink. Yeah.
Yes.
So you'll see here, we decided on some colors, right? We create a visual system that Fernando gets to stick with. See what
you did there.
So deciding on some colors, also some fonts, some typography. I thought that these fonts really suited you. There's a bit of personality to what we would use as the font for headlines. And then we went with a sans serif for the body font. For those of you who don't know the difference, if you're not graphic designers, a serif font is a font that has the little ticks on the bottom of it. See on the bottom of the A? Those are intended traditionally You'll see it in, for example, a legal contract, Times New Roman. That's a serif font that most people know. It's intended for block paragraphs. It makes reading. Books are normally in that font. It's intended to be able to read quickly when it's in block paragraphs. Sans serif is more often, I would say, used for headers, but I switched them around in this case. And you're allowed to break the rules. We use the serif font for the header, and a sans serif that I really like, Proxima Nova, is a nice, clean, simple font that we would use for the body. And now you get to see it in action. When we're building the visual brand, we usually do at least one mock-up of how all of this would come together. Not necessarily literally, because after we go through the visuals of the brand, I'll show you the website that's patiently sitting behind Keynote on my laptop in a browser window. But we normally do a mock-up as part of the visual identity of how it might look on the web, because designers can use that as inspiration, right? What would you use as an action color, for example, becomes very useful. So as you're building your visual brands, give consideration to, when I want someone to do something, how am I going to make that happen? Usually it's the brightest color of the set that you would reserve for a button to buy now or to take some kind of action right away. It's really important. It doesn't always have to be a bright color, but it should stand out. You only want to use your action color with intention. The less they see it, the more impact that it makes. And then, of course, I mentioned not just mock-ups of how this brand would live on the web, but also in print form. I thought this would be kind of fun, stationery. Business cards, pins. I think pins are fun. We did this little folder in case, for example, you're putting together, you're a consultant now, if you remember. Now, as of yesterday, you're a consultant.
I feel so grown up.
Yeah, it's very fancy. But we thought, you might put together a proposal or even a strategy that a client has paid you lots of money for, and you'd hand it in this beautifully branded little folder. Really, so much of this is branding. I've said before, and I don't say it lightly, that branding, I believe, is the most powerful business tool you have available to you. People think branding is just making something look pretty, when in fact, you have the ability through visual systems, organization, and creation to brand not necessarily who you are today, but who you want to become. It's pretty exciting. It's one thing to have a conversation about here's all the directions that I could go with my business, but it's something entirely different when you actually create visuals to substantiate that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then the final slide is part of this visual identity, and I'm giving you just sample slides of what, for example, I'd send to a client after they've said, help me design my visual identity. This is the system. It's usually actually one long image, and this is one long image, and I just jump from each section. But that way, you create a system. It becomes very useful when someone that you can't even anticipate now has to touch your brand in some way. They're going to build a brochure for you, or someone's going to put together some kind of collateral. You've got a system now that you can email to them and say, hey, whatever you make for me, make sure it's on brand. From today and this day moving forward, what you're doing is building brand equity. Through consistency, you're reinforcing the value that exists when people hire you. Think about a luxury brand. Think about, for example, going into a designer retail store. Usually it's very clean. Sometimes you go in and you're like, do they sell anything here? Right? It's very clean, easy to navigate. It's that idea. That's how I brand people. We want to really reinforce who you want to become through strong visuals and consistency. So, you think the fun's over? Not yet. We have worked very hard to actually build a website that you haven't seen yet, but you're about to. This is the web address. You are now allowed to pull out your phones and go ahead. I went ahead and bought a web address for you, didn't even ask. Ask for forgiveness. Yeah, instead of permission. What's that saying? Right, so sounds like Fernando. We bought that web address. You've got a common name, Fernando Delgado, so someone else stole that, so we got to get
Yeah,
creative.
like 400,000 other people.
Exactly.
Yeah, I looked.
Exactly, but there's a good lesson there because there's people in the audience that are sitting here or watching online, and they're like, oh, me too. My name is John Smith. Good luck. But that's a moment where you get creative. Again, don't worry if it's slightly different than what other people do. The only thing you need to worry about is that it's memorable.
Yeah.
So soundslikefernando.com, and a few other options I was considering. One was fernando.audio. It's kind of cool. People think, well, I have to have a .com. 2018, you don't really need a .com.
Right.
I actually don't. I own my name .com, but I don't even. That's not my primary domain. I use .co because my company is called Phil Pallen Collective, and it's an opportunity to reinforce the brand.
Right.
So let's take a look at your brand new website. Ooh. Come on, help me out. Yeah.
Drum roll.
Yeah. So you see the treatment that you saw in the brand identity. You see a lot of the visuals come together. And now this conversational copy incorporating the brand sentence that all of you helped write and choose yesterday. So I'll go through here. Now you're also seeing some of the photography.
Nothing's popping up.
Look at this. Oh, crap. I'm just looking at it by myself. You're like, what am I looking at? Oh, did it? I might have to spin the laptop around and just show you from my computer. That's weird, right?
What'd you do?
Hold on. I'm just going to turn this around. Well, you can also go there. That's the other good thing. All right. Did it work? Hold on.
Yeah, I think you just lost your
Stand by. The tech guys are like, oh, God, what is he doing? Let's see. Does it yeah, do you want to... Should I tell a joke in the meantime? I don't have any.
You want me to dance?
Yeah, do a dance. Well, in the meantime, you can go. If you have your phones, we did a mobile version of it, so it sounds like Fernando.com. By show of hands, who's there? Did you go there yet? Do you like what you see? Tease it. Yeah? Yep. Oh, look. There we go. What? That's probably something I did. Thank you. Okay, let's do this again. Love that I'm narrating something that none of you could see.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, right? Shall we start again? Yeah. So here sounds like Fernando.com. You see the color treatment that we added on the photo. That color treatment is also really handy if, for example, you've got photography that is inconsistent. Say, for example, you want to incorporate photos, throwbacks,
right.
Or photos that maybe are not super high quality. By having a color treatment like this that you can add as a layer in Photoshop, it makes it easy to have things become more consistent. In this case, I wanted to add this treatment because I wanted the photos to complement the orange, because the orange in the visual identity complements the business.
Right, yeah, I love the colors.
Good. I'm glad. We'd have a problem if you didn't. Now, the conversational copy that all of you helped write. We incorporated your brand sentence here. I'm an Emmy Award-winning audio consultant and owner of Stickman Sound, making audio processes a breeze, one set at a time. And in fact, because the vote was so close yesterday, I decided to incorporate both of them. I think people also really liked that sentence. I looked at my Instagram, a few people commented, they said they really liked the sentence. Producers, I hear you.
Yeah, I really like it too.
Yeah, so I incorporated both there. But you see how in just a few sentences, this is literally, it sounds like it's straight from, if we were having a conversation, this is what you would say. That's the kind of communication I want on your website. I don't want a big, long paragraph because, again, the more you give, the less control you retain, right? By giving people so much choice and so much to digest, it means that inevitably they're just going to skim, and pick some keywords and move on. But by keeping it simple and easy to process, it increases the likelihood that they'll get all of it. You had some really awesome photos. That was really the only thing that you kind of knew, because you're in the photos. But
yeah, but I didn't even look at her camera.
Yeah.
She came to the shop, told me where to stand, and
Yeah.
that was it. It was over.
Yeah.
And then Lauren said, no, you no see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. By the way, I almost forgot to mention, do you know that we did that session yesterday? I spent almost the entire day with you yesterday without knowing one
did.
very important fact.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to know what yesterday was? Fernando's birthday.
I thought you were going to forget again.
Yeah, I almost did. And then you saw it in my eyeballs just now, and I was like, ooh. So happy
Phil was
birthday.
very mad at me yesterday. He came
Yes,
up to
I
me at the
was.
very end of the day, and he was like, how did we do all of this work together and I not know?
Well, you got a good
'Cause
birthday
I didn't tell
gift.
you. I had the best birthday gift.
So you're lucky I'm not making them sing happy birthday. They did that last night.
Bring it.
Yeah. So branding, I want to mention this. Yesterday we decided this direction, this strategist consultant direction for Fernando, but it's not enough to just communicate that on its own. When I'm working and I'm branding someone, I need to give them more. We need to decide, okay, how can people work with you? You'd be shocked. Most people don't take that extra step to brand their services in a fun, memorable way. So we've come up with 3 packages, 3 services. Rather than saying, you can hire me hourly, blah, blah, blah. That's boring. We decided let's run with this whole theme and come up with 3 packages: rewind, play, and forward, which really kind of mirror your philosophy, your strengths, your core competency as a business. And it's different and it's memorable.
Yeah, I like it. I love the forward. I can't read the other 2, but I like the forward.
Well, you can go to soundslikefernando.com. Yeah. Promoting your own website. So I love this photo. So you see, we use photography to sprinkle through and really kind of break things up. This style on the web, this kind of long scroll, is popular and again, easy to digest. We didn't need a big detailed website with multiple pages. In fact, what I did, I'll scroll back to the top, what I did was add anchor links so that you can actually just click and it takes you to that specific page. And then your social media, that we'll talk more about this afternoon when we talk about promoting your brand and where those priority platforms are. And most importantly, a way for people to get in touch with you. It's kind of the whole point of this.
Amen.
Sometimes people hide their contact information. They make it difficult to get in touch. That's not what you want to do. You want to make it super easy for someone to be able to contact you quickly. So what do you think? There you go.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, it looks great.
Well, my pleasure. A big thanks to my team back in LA that stayed up very late.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah. Lauren and Dalton and Ton, my whole team back home. And thanks to you guys for being a part
Yes, thank you.
of the branding process. And I feel so good that it was your birthday. It really just, it all just worked together.
I'm telling you, man, this is the best birthday ever.
We'll talk about websites. One of the questions I get often at the end is, what platform should I build my website? I built this on Squarespace, one of my favorites in terms of working within parameters to make decisions more efficiently and not fuss over the possibilities. A lot of people, if you're comfortable with WordPress, that's wonderful, but sometimes WordPress is a little daunting. There's literally millions of plugins. You kind of need to know the basics of coding, and if you don't know that, I don't recommend building a website on WordPress. Squarespace should be paying me for this, by the way. They're not, but they should. Did you hear that? I know. So I've just logged into the back end of your website so you could see very simply how it's set up. It's set up as a one-pager, so everything would fall under main navigation, but it is so easy for you. Let's say you win a big fancy award and you want to add it to this section. Now you can just literally log in and make those edits live.
Cool.
It's really important to me as a brand strategist that when a client hires me to build something for them, that they have the control to be able to update it and maintain it
Right.
themselves.
Yeah, it's critical.
It's really important. It's like you hire an agency or someone to create something beautiful, but then you can't even maintain it or update it yourself. It kind of defeats the purpose.
And then
so
it's
that
outrageously expensive usually to get it updated if you have to rely on somebody else. I've had to deal with that in the past.
Exactly. Even if you're not the one doing the updates, you should be able to in the event that you want to. So that's another reason I like Squarespace as a platform. The learning curve is very simple. That's the presentation. And what did you think? You liked it?
Yeah.
Fernando liked it, so we've done our jobs. I will open it up now to questions from you guys. Anything that you want to know regarding building your brand for me and or for Fernando.
Got a gentleman down here. Y'all are very quiet.
Hi, as someone who is in development and does have a background in programming, would you recommend making your own website if you're able to, versus spending the money to do it on Squarespace?
You've got two options again. This is funny. You were sitting in the exact same seat yesterday, weren't you?
Actually,
I
yeah.
like that. Consistency. That's your brand. Just
Yeah.
kidding. Yeah.
Both of you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good question. I would say if you know how to and you're excited about building something from scratch, kind of fits with actually the question you asked yesterday, which was using an opportunity to show us what you're capable of doing.
Right.
If I were you, I might build a website from scratch. But if I were you and I knew how to use the developer platform on Squarespace, that's also kind of exciting because I can count on one hand the number of people I've met, students, that know that platform well. And in fact, I've hired a few of them. So even to appeal to someone like me who says this is a platform I use because it's easy for my clients to make updates, my clients are not web designers. My clients are experts in whatever it is they do day to day. They need to be able to do this and maintain it efficiently. You've got both options. So Squarespace actually has a developer platform where you can customize everything. I don't go back there because I got no business coding. I can do a lot of things, but I can't drive and I can't code.
Coding gets confusing, I can tell you that much.
It is.
Stay away from that back end.
Exactly. I like to just do the pretty things at the front. So you've got two options, and it would be kind of fun to explore both. But again, even exploring that and being able to pitch yourself to someone like me, you'd get hired within a matter of days if you've, hint, if you've got the ability to do that. So both options work really well depending on what excites you the most.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any more questions? We've got one up here, one down here. Here we go.
We got an online question.
Great.
All right, so on YouTube, we have Emily Rotman. She's a bachelor's in media communication, and she's asking if you have any tips or tricks for breaking into a niche that you may not be in currently.
Yeah. Do I have tips for that? All kinds of tips for that. I told this story yesterday about coming up with my job title and really being in a position, taking the leap to brand something now that I wasn't quite yet. So it's not lying. We're not being inauthentic in that sense and lying and saying, this is who I am, even though I'm not that person yet. It's positioning yourself strategically to get to that point. I really wanted to get back on TV as part of this job. I didn't know how, I didn't know when. It took me a few years, but I did get the opportunity. That was one of my goals, and when I was ready and I made the right connections, I got the call to comment on a celebrity story on a national news show. And in that moment, I decided I'm a celebrity brand expert, and I didn't really, for Emily to know, I didn't really have a huge amount to back that up yet, but I branded it. And by branding it, I manifested it. So if you don't have an extensive portfolio to show me that you're an expert in whatever you say you are, then let's distract from that and focus on the positives. What can we focus on if we don't have an extensive portfolio? We can focus on your opinion, your perspective. What's your unique take on this brand? So in your bio, in the copy on your website, say something about that. I'm thinking yesterday, I'm trying to think of a recent example that people will connect to. Yesterday, one of the common themes that came up, you kind of said life is a show, you know? This idea of everything being a show. And that, let's say you were just getting started and we didn't have a lot to say, here's the work that you've done, I would focus on that. I'd focus on making sure people get a sense of who you are and why they should care through your perspective and your personality. And you'd be shocked, a lot of times that's enough to make or break. That's enough to seal the deal that will then very quickly get you those portfolio projects to substantiate and prove that you're an expert in that space.
Right. One thing I would also add to that is if you're not working in a space that you want to be working in, then you need to start meeting people that are working in that space. The more people you know that work in that space, the more likely you are to work with those people in that space. So that's really important. Go knock on people's doors. That's how you get jobs these days. It's not by sending resumes to people, it's by knocking on doors.
It's completely relationship based. It's like I decided, some of you know if you've been to my green room sessions or you've come and found me on campus, Phil, this is my business card. I've decided I'm not collecting business cards at Hall of Fame this year. Do you want to know why? Because I have a box at home with 1,000 business cards from all the Hall of Fames I've been to that they're just sitting there collecting dust. I feel very guilty throwing them out. But I don't want your business card. I want you to create a relationship with me. I don't want you to go into that meeting or that relationship to pivot industries or what have you, get a job. I want Phil to hire me. It's like, well, no. If you want that, don't make it about you. Because I got enough people's problems to deal with. I don't need you to just tell me yours. I need a job right away. It's like, no, that's your problem, not mine. Go from priority 0 in my inbox, which is, hi, Phil, I'm graduating soon and I don't have any money and I need a job, so will you hire me? How many times did you say I in that email? Here's the difference. That's example 1. That's what not to do. Here's what you should do. Sign up for my email list and be the 0.1% of people that actually reply to it and say, Phil, I really love your perspective on personal branding. It really inspired me to think this is the direction I'm going to head in. I noticed on your website that, insert opportunity to help me out with something, even if it takes 5-10 minutes, I wondered if I could help you in this way. Give a little, right? Give a little, and a lot of times you get a lot in return. All you're doing is thinking about it from my perspective instead of yours. I have hired a few full sail students over the last year, and I've kept some of them, and I've also fired some of them. And let me tell you, the ones that got fired, let me tell you why they got fired, because they cared more about themselves than they cared about what I wanted. And I'm not saying that's specific to full sail students. It's actually, it's a, I hate to say it, but it's a bit of a millennial problem. It's a bit controversial to say, no offense, just don't be that person.
I don't think it's just millennials.
Yeah,
People my
it's
age
come
are
up.
really lazy too. So
It's
yeah.
late. Yes,
I think it's a
laziness,
cultural
it's-
thing. I don't think it's a generational thing. It's
And
an American thing, sadly.
Well, I didn't say that.
I did. I did, and I'll say it again.
I'm not American.
I
Then they'll
forgot
really
about that.
kick me off the stage. You said it, not me. No, but I mean, we say this and we get real about this. It's actually come up often in the last few days as we come back to keep it real for you, because this is your opportunity to go, I'm not going to be that person.
Yeah, I don't take resumes. I did a couple mentorship sessions yesterday, and I told both the gentlemen that I was mentoring, your resume is great. I'm not interested. I don't care about your resume. I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because my resume certainly didn't reflect who I was when I was first starting out, and I know yours isn't going to either. So I don't care about your resume. I'm more interested in getting an email telling me that you love my work, butter my muffin, make me feel good about what I've done, and I might actually want to talk to you. Because like Phil said, we're busy. We have families and work and all this other stuff going on. And then offer up some, I tell people in my office all the time, if you want to do what I do for a living, show up at my office. Nobody ever shows up in my office. And the few people that actually have do what I do for a living now. So if you want to work in a certain niche, find those people, meet those people, hang out with them, buy them a cup of coffee, tell them how amazing they are. And you'll find yourself slowly gravitating towards that group of people. And before you know it, you come up for a breath of air and you're in it.
Yeah. You go from priority 0 to literally the most important priority as soon as you have something to offer me to make my life easier.
Oh my God, I can trust this person. Let's get them here now.
Yeah.
I need somebody that I can trust. Right? Like Phil said, if it's I, then I know that I can't trust you because it's all about you and not reflecting my business in a good way or taking care of my client, who is the most important person in the world to me at that time.
Exactly. Yesterday, this is another creative example. Yesterday, I got interviewed for someone's podcast, and all of you could have a blog or a podcast. Again, the difference is emailing me saying, Phil, hire me, I want a job, I'm desperate. Or, Phil, I really love your work, I want to interview you for my podcast.
That's a great
or
way
for
to
my
get
blog.
somebody to
It's the same thing, because you know it. After we record or after we talk, we're going to talk for 5-10 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's accomplishing exactly the same thing, but that difference in mindset and approach will make or break it.
You get that handshake, and that's key. For some reason, people don't like to shake hands anymore. That's how relationships are built.
Mm-hmm. One more, we'll take another question, but I actually want to give a specific shout out to someone who does this very well. Asia, I'm going to mention you, Asia McMillan. I know, not to embarrass you, but I'm just looking around this room going, who's someone who's actually doing this? You and I have become friends. You know, you're a full sales student, you're still here, you're almost ready to graduate, but you're the type of person where I'm like, when are you graduating so I can hire you? You know, not when are you graduating, oh God, now you're going to ask me for a job. You know, we've built a relationship. You do a very good job of staying on my radar. So I thought, I was like, there's got to be someone in this room who's doing this. It's you. You do a very good job of this. Questions? Any more questions? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got a microphone. You're ready to go.
Good morning. This question may have been answered on yesterday, so forgive me if it was. But I'm interested in knowing, like, are there typical questions that you usually ask your client or that you ask when you're looking at a certain product? Because when you talked about the coffee and the elephant, it was clear that you understood that your client really liked coffee, but you had a story behind it. And the same with this gentleman here. So I'm just curious the line of questioning that you typically use because it seems very introspective.
That is a very good question about questions. Yeah, I think just by having done this a number of times, I know those questions that help me arrive at those opportunities for storytelling quicker.
Do you ask the same questions to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a little pool of questions that I often pull from depending on what I know will work for you. You said something to me yesterday that I took as a compliment, which was right after we came off stage, you said, you were calming.
Yeah.
And that's my job because it's a very vulnerable moment. Not even to mention the fact that we're live streaming and recording for eternity on the internet and have a room
Oh my
full
God,
of
we
people
are?
and lights, yeah. But even for people, if I'm sitting, I'm on Skype with someone doing this session or I'm sitting in a room with them, it requires vulnerability to be able to do it well.
That's why I was asking if you do the same questions, because Phil sends you a link to a little website and it's very plain and clean and you just answer some, and like the first question is, what's your name?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is going to be easy, right? The next question's like, what's your email or your phone number or something like that, right? And then the third question, it says, now it's going to get hard.
Yep. And it's deceiving because the questions are short.
Yeah.
I don't want people hung up on anything, but they're not easy to answer.
Yeah, and they really get your wheels spinning. And like what I did is I went and I answered them. And then I'm kind of ADD, so I got really, really distracted.
Yeah.
And then the website resets after a little while.
Oh, no.
So it was like, oh, darn. So I had to go back and answer them again. But I'm like, okay, I need to be like honest again.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about what I answered the first time. And then I got ADD again. And then I went to Juliana and we started trying to answer them together because some of them,
They're hard.
yeah, like you really kind of have to look in the mirror and be like, I don't know if I want to talk about you, man.
Yeah. I'm going to give you some of the questions that I ask often that help at least solicit some of the answers. All we're looking for are stories, opportunities for storytelling, because that's what people respond to. If I got up here and all I did was lecture and give you information, you would tune out. I know you would. But I have to interweave stories because that's what people pay attention to. People love stories. So here are some of the questions that I asked to help get into that mindset where I know I'll get some juicy stuff. The most important thing, by the way, is to listen. There were a few moments yesterday, just based on being on stage, I wanted to jump in and interject and fill the time, but actually I didn't. I waited for a beat, and it prompted you to think and elaborate on things, and it's important to kind of wait for them to kind of get into the rhythm. Here are a few of the questions I asked. Describe yourself in 3 words. Normally, people answer 2 out of 3 accurately, and there's one that shows that it's not quite right, and then you kind of want to understand why. What are 3 things I wouldn't know just by looking at you?
That was a hard one.
It's really hard, yeah. If you were going to write a book today, what would the title be? If you were going to film 3 webisodes or web videos tomorrow to show me your expertise, what would they be on? One of the most important questions is the one at the very end of the questionnaire, which is there anything else I should know? Because sometimes it's not necessarily the question I ask, but it's that moment of showing to you that I'm listening that jogs your memory and thought while your brain is in that zone to go, oh, actually, it's interesting. I had a client who's a jewelry designer, and we went through the whole exercise. We did the brand audit. We built a visual brand. She booked a meeting, a desk side with Vogue, and she said, will you please come with me because you know my brand and you can communicate it if I get really nervous. She said, would you come with me to Vogue? And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Of course I'll go to Vogue. Twist my arm. I said to her the night before, I said, do you have any fun stories? Because they're only going to listen, to the technical parts of the jewelry for so long. I said, do you have any memorable photos that might prompt a fun conversation? She said, well, yeah, there's one thing I never told you. I'm family friends with Jimmy Choo. He was my mentor and he walked me down the aisle at my wedding. And I swore at her. And I said, you mean to tell me you've gone this long without telling me that Jimmy Choo personally is your mentor? I said, go home and print a photo from your wedding. And so she did. Brought it to the desk side the next day. And that's all the journalist cared about. She's like, what do you mean, Jimmy Choo? The jewelry's nice. What do you mean he walked you down the aisle? So that's an example of taking inventory of these things that you almost take for granted. The reason I have a job, and if you guys, go into something similar, the reason we're employed is because taking inventory of self is one of the most challenging things that you can do. You're too close to it because it's you.
Yeah.
So to have someone take inventory of that independently really makes you aware of some fascinating things that you take for granted. And I'm the same way. I rely on my team to take inventory of that. The number of times I've rewritten my bio, the same damn Charlie Sheen internship story. You got to repackage it and keep it relevant. For so long, I've come back to campus and I say, show me your brand. And I was like, well, maybe I should take my own advice this year and show you how I work, which has been fun. It's been really fun. I think I'll do that again. So yeah, great question. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, okay.
My name is Lee Paulson. You talk a lot about internet brand. What about the physical brand?
Yeah, I tend to focus on, I say online and your web presence because that's usually the immediate need, or the confusion lies with how do I build something online and how do I set some parameters so that I can create within that. I tend to focus on web because in real life, you have a brand whether you like it or not. And I think the exercise for the brand in real life and online, it's just the inventory process. It's taking inventory of those two qualities, the content that you share, the way that you share it is personality. So to me, I focus on web because the exercise is the same. You are someone. You know, you show up. You have a uniqueness to you. We need to be able to audit that process and understand it to be able to create it online, but then to not overthink it in person. I think that's why I focus more on web than in real life, because you already have a brand. Some people will say to me, oh, branding, I don't worry about that. I don't have a brand. And then I decide if it's an argument I feel like getting into. So I pick and choose your battles. I'm having a glass of wine. I'm like, no, not this one. No, but my opinion on this is that you don't get to choose whether or not you have a brand. You have a brand whether you like it or not. I quoted Jeff Bezos yesterday saying, your brand is what others say about you when you're not in the room. You have a brand. This is 2018. People are looking you up on the web before they meet you in real life.
Yep.
So branding is just a matter of taking matters into your own hands and building something to show for that.
And actually, when you show up to work every day in real life and you kill it, that's your brand. Or if you don't, that's your brand as well. So I think it's important if you're going to have something as awesome as that, and it's going to say all these wonderful things, but then you show up and you don't deliver, well, you've just shot yourself in the foot.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Great question. Any others? Yeah.
All right, so I'm only in like month 6 of Full Sail and everything, so I still got a long ways to go and all that. But I was just wondering, is it ever too early to start like branding myself? Because I plan on doing work under like a business name, not necessarily like my real name. But I just would like to know like if it's ever more what did I say? If it will contradict or not contradict me, but be unbeneficial to me. I can't think of the other word for that right now.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's come up over the last few days. Being early on at Full Sail is an advantage you have. I get stressed out when someone tells me they have 2 months left before graduation, and then I say, have you been to career development? And then they say no. And you know my policy on career development. If you haven't been to career development yet, we can't be friends.
Yep, me too.
It's the most important resource that exists on this campus. And no, they didn't pay me to say this. This isn't a sponsored post.
And the people that work in career development are amazing. The whole reason I even come back to Full Sail anymore originally started with the people in the career development department.
When I got fired by Ryan Seacrest, it's the first place I went. I called poor Pat Bishop on a Friday night at 9 p.m. and I was like, something terrible has happened. She said, well, we're going to call Jess on Monday morning and figure this out. And we did. My career development rep, I built a friendship with. Shout out to Jess Pollock. We were friends by this moment. We have a relationship. We keep in touch monthly. You know, it's been how many years? 7 years since I graduated. That's the kind of relationship that you can build. I'll tell you something. That's far more important. That relationship has been far more influential in my career than anything I learned in class.
Yep.
Welcome to the entertainment
And my story
business.
is exactly the same. I got my first job in a recording studio because of my career development advisor. They were called placement advisors back then. I got my first job in television because of her as well. And it was because every time I called and I was scared out of my pants, she answered the phone, walked me through it, gave me some really good advice, and then told me to go out and kill it. And I introduced her to my parents last night. It was the most amazing thing ever. So we've had a 20-year relationship, and she's like a second mom to me.
Yep.
So definitely keep in touch with the people in career development. They're amazing.
And to your point, I would say work on building something to show for what you're passionate about, and then do the research to know, I think there's room for me in this industry. But that being said, don't put too much pressure on yourself yet to know exactly what that looks like. Let that evolution happen naturally. There's going to be courses and content and things that you get excited about in school that might greatly influence what you decide to focus on. For me, it was the branding class in EBMS. It was a focus on like, wow, I can do this. Yeah, I can focus on just this. It was that course that I did where I went, I think I can do this for a living. I really, really like this. So there's still going to be those moments of discovery that will influence that, but get started now.
Yeah.
Don't wait till the graduation day to then scramble and go, oh crap, welcome to the real world. Now I need a job. I'd rather you graduate and have something ready to go 3 months before, and that way it takes less pressure off of you.
The more you create while you're a student, the less you're going to have, it's practice. I mean, all we do to become professionals is do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So the more you're creating, the more practice you're getting, the better your product is going to be. And as you go through the courses, you might discover that what you think you're going to do is not at all what you're going to end up doing. I came to school to make records. I've never made a record in my life. So you just never know where you're going to end up. So give yourself some time. The beautiful thing about this is it's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons why nobody understands us outside of here, right? Because everybody else has a job job and they do Monday through Friday and they don't care about anything else. This is a lifestyle for us. This is what we do because we love it. And we don't work banker's hours. We work production hours. So take your time because it's a long ride and you don't want to burn out early.
That is great advice. Thank you guys for hanging out with us this morning. It's been fun. Give another round of applause to Fernando. Make sure you come back this afternoon. We're going to talk about promoting your brand. A very big thank you to you guys who left reviews for the podcast episode. We got great reviews on your podcast episode,
Okay,
so go
I can't
check
wait
it
to
out.
listen to it.
And if you leave a review, come and find me. I'm going to give you a Phil Pallen lip balm. Branding!
Thank you, all of you that are here today. Thank you so much for attending this session. And want to give a special thanks to Phil and Fernando for sharing so much wonderful information and their expertise. So thank you, guys. And that's a wrap.
Woo!